And so I initiated. Chloe, there is something else I want you to have. You have to know, whenever I had to pass exams or tests, I carried a little talisman with me, my little mojo, as I like to say. And yes, it has served its purpose, as I never had to repeat one course. So in hope it may help you as much as it did in my case. Please take it and believe in miracles, whatever miracle you need right now. Honestly, I didn't expect anything as a result of that surprise from before, so I just let it happen and neutrally observed her reaction as I presented her with the little teddy bear. But as I focused on staying neutral, I experienced a true hardcore déjà vu. Like she did the night before, she hugged me and pushed me so hard I could barely breathe. It was an identical situation when she engulfed me with her arms. I could even sense the wet tears on my shoulder, which made it equal in so many aspects. Only one thing stood out, namely the energy between us, or rather the feeling. The previous night, I almost drowned with her inside the morass of desperation, whereas now I flew to cloud 9 with her. I could really feel the vibrant being blustering forth, the very being I only noticed little indications of so far. In contrast to those situations in which always stood a little shadow between us, I could only recognize pure light, pure happiness, pure joy, so contagious and eternal. According to Letter, those 5 minutes she embraced me felt like an hour and demonstrated once more that everything around me was an illusion, except for her. She turned out to be a vital part of my truth. It was quite easy to formulate that, but the meaning behind was so manifold and had so many sub-truths, like there are stars out there in the universe. For instance, the most spontaneous, most distinct truth carried the letters L, O, V, E, and felt amazing. However, how it turned out, she loved those kinds of plushies, and she also used to have some sort of collection. So my conclusion was, when you collect something, be it paintings, stamps, or plushies, it has a higher value for the collector, and therefore I hit the bullseye when I realized my second plan. Funny happenstance, but fortunate either way. In our further minutes together, she admired me a little more before she laid Frankie, as she named my little bear, onto her bedside table. Then we could start playing, and well, that was when we traveled through a wormhole, which brought us to a place where it was already 6 hours, and of course dozens of matches later. At circa 10:30 p.m., we summed up our scores, and figured out that she won by 14 points. Well, I could live with that, since last time I was the one being victorious. Besides, I didn't have ambitions for becoming the world champion of Uno. I had other goals, and those goals were closer than ever before. Before I could even notice them coming, they were already there, like a lightning bolt. And in the same manner, what came to me furthermore charged me up exactly like such a force of nature, only a little bit less painful and electrifying. And those insights I gained with that found application once more, as I enjoyed every moment. Even after we laid the game set aside on the table alongside her bed, we followed that principle, when we talked a little bit more about anything and everything, until we agreed on hitting the lights. Paradoxically, it was almost self-explaining how that was supposed to happen for both of us. I mean, I tested that before I dropped a brick. I slowly built up a distance to her and approached my bed. But before I came anywhere near my normal sleeping location, she already asked me, "Where are you going? You know that this is the last evening together for some time." I turned around and smiled at her, as I explained myself with a little detour that I only intended on checking my phone one last time, just to be certain about those arrangements I made in terms of my next day. Obviously, that was not the entire truth, but in a spontaneous reaction, when I beheld my phone laying on my bed, I chose to go that way. Actually, my aim was to spend the time together with her, but at the same time with the certainty that both of us wanted it so. So I couldn't complain, as I found the perfect solution for that matter, and subsequently returned to the place every part of me desired to be and to stay. For the moment I was absolutely fulfilled, but seen in the long term, particularly latter, would be difficult. But again, difficult is not a synonym for impossible. Something is only difficult because we believe it is. After all, there is always something being more difficult and also more simple, and yet everything can be achieved. Like I had to consider in retrospect when I became aware of every fibre of myself. My feet wrapped inside the blanket, which gave me a pleasant warm sensation. My legs touching the legs of Chloe, which gave me an even warmer feeling and also a spark of safety. My thigh was placed within the range of a couple of millimeters away from hers, which leveled the intimacy up into the heights. My torso was connected to hers, with our hands and arms wrapped around one another, which let us appear as an inseparable unit. My head laid kind of on top of Chloe's, while hers was situated on my shoulder. I couldn't see as it was dark, I couldn't hear as it was silent, but I could feel, and that replaced any other sense of mine. All that accumulated made me draw the conclusion that it was the most intimate, the most ecstatic, the most incredible moment in my entire life so far. But about one I was certain. That was just the beginning, the start of a never-ending love story. And so there is no need to describe what kind of dreams accompanied me through the night. Sweet dreams, consisting of the core ingredients like the land of milk and honey, and of course, that black-haired girl who outshone everything, be it ever so brilliant. Though I had the most beautiful dreams, they unfortunately couldn't prevent me from waking up again in the morning. At about 9:30 I woke up and thought as my first deed about the theme of this day. 2 hours and she's gone. Or rather man, if I only had the choice. After a quite complaining and grumpy start into the day, I became aware that I actually had the choice, and that I used it indeed. I could tune myself positive by considering that it was not the end, but the beginning. I would see her again, and who said that the intimacy or the bond in general faded? That was only a dark apprehension about something I didn't have evidence for. But nevertheless, the time I wouldn't see her appeared like a lack of something no one else was able to supply me with. So with one eye on the clock, at 10:20 my parents claimed to pick me up, and I still had to put my street clothes on. I gazed at the sleeping Chloe, who still laid there in my arms, and I in hers. Out of an impulse, I hugged her even harder, only a little bit softer than she did previously, which triggered some movement. I used those minutes before my departure, like never before, to dwell in the moment. All those sensations of last night were now accompanied with the corresponding visuals, like her shining hair, and made it therefore even more spectacular. My senses were flooded with information, so that I luckily didn't feel the urge to go back to sleep, like it was usual for me when I woke up for the first time a day. Further, I had to take action and prepare myself with all that belonged together. And one part of that, a rather unpleasant one, was to give up my position next to Chloe. So I slowly woke her up by stroking her cheek and welcomed her with a silent, "Good morning, Chloe." She gradually came to consciousness and greeted me with her usual shining smile, followed by the realization what was going to happen that day. In the exact same manner, I could observe her grin sinking down, as I would have done when I had observed myself from third perspective. But I knew the remedy already, so I just stroked further, and when I reached the area around her throat, I began tingling her, which made an excessive laughter inevitable. Without any doubt, I would give so much to experience that every day, every morning, every night. But instead of thinking further about what was missing, my sight fell on what was there, and how she stood up in a hurry to open her cupboard for an unknown purpose. I spectated how she picked up Frankie and intended on putting him inside. But that was when I completely lost the overview on the situation. I had a glimpse of something colorful inside, But before I could see what it was, or why it urged so dramatically into my field of view, she blocked sight by standing between me and the something. When she spoke again, she spread a little bit of clarity. I forgot to show you something, Aaron. You know the saying, once the bed is warmed up, it is 1,000 times harder to leave. And yeah, so I guess we'll have to do it now. So she grabbed something as a result and turned around to show me that ominous thing, which I believed to already have seen halfways. And my belief didn't delude me, since I could then see exactly what it was. Well, before I could describe it, I had to calm myself due to my reaction, in which I replaced breathing by laughing. But after all, I was provided with a sight that would stick to my mind for probably forever. I saw a mid-sized plushie in the form of a monkey which had colorful clothes, a cap with a red cross on it, and such discs I was not able to name properly. They are being used with percussion to create such a clang or rattle as far as I knew. But based on that, it was even stranger what I saw, because it was completely torn away from the context. And according to that, my response consisted of staring at Chloe with 3 huge question marks in my face. She even had trouble containing herself, so she showed me the next feature, which was a string at the back of that figure. At the end of it, I could perceive such a ring. Spontaneously, I compared that with such a ring humans wear inside their noses and call it piercing. Though in that case, the purpose is certainly only for the personal appearance, whereas in case of the monkey, there was more to that, as it really invited one to pull it. Well, some piercings do that as well, but I don't want to induce absurd thoughts. However, Chloe soon raised her index finger to say I better prepared myself for watching. With her other index finger, she gently pulled the string out of the monkey's butt and spoke one last time. Are you ready? Totally perplexed and clueless about what was going to happen next, I nodded and sharpened my senses. And not many seconds later, I evaluated a huge mystery as solved. Who was Dr. Nurse again?